Hello, welcome to the Objective 8 video of the 2021 SANS Holiday Hack Challenge. We are going to continue our journey, and this is one of the hardest challenges of the 2021 Holiday Hack challenges, and this video is probably going to be quite long. We're also going to have to spend some time on the hints, the terminal challenge, because I think that this challenge which is an Active Directory exploitation one, you really need all the challenges. Without that, it becomes extremely difficult. But with the challenges, because you get I think something like 8 hints, you should be able to solve this without any additional help. Maybe just one reference that I saw on Discord, someone mentioned can be useful, but you can figure out the first step even without that one. So let's get into it. So we are back in the game, and in the previous video we finished the printer exploitation challenge. Now we're going to do the Kerberoasting on an open fire, and as I mentioned in previous videos, this objective is not being unlocked unless you either solve the printer exploitation challenge or you solve the terminal challenge tied to this one. But we already have this one unlocked because I'm going sequentially. If for some reason you skip the printer exploitation one, which was also pretty tough, then you might not see this immediately. But you might bump into the HoHo no terminal, and if you solve that one, which is I think one of the harder terminal challenges, then you will be able to see this one because it will unlock this this objective in your console. So let's take a look at this, and as you can see, this is a 5 Christmas tree challenge, pretty tough one. If you are familiar with Active Directory exploitation and penetration testing techniques, then the steps in this one will be probably easier for you, but still it requires multiple steps: discovery, enumeration, thinking about the environment and the context. So it's a very complex challenge. I enjoyed this one a lot, and I think altogether with the terminal challenge, it might took me almost an entire day to solve this one. But it's a great exercise. You can learn a ton from these. So the objective says obtain the secret SLAY research document from a host on the Elf University domain. What is the first secret ingredient? Santa urges each elf and reindeer to consider for a wonderful holiday season. Start by registering as a student on the ElfView portal. Find Eve snowshoes in Santa's office for hints. So I'm not going to go to the portal just yet, but first I'm going to go to Santa's office. So let's teleport because I'm still in the Frost Towers, and let's solve the terminal challenge first. Right here, and there is Eve. Oops, yeah, the music was enabled. So let's talk to this elf and see what Eve has to say for us. Hi there, how's it going? I'm Eve Snowshoes. Lately I've been spending a lot of cycles worrying about what's going next door. Before that, I was checking out fail to ban. So this is going to be a challenge on fail to ban and creating filters. It's this slick log scanning tool for Apache web servers. If you can complete this terminal challenge, I'll be happy to give you some things I've learned about Kerberoasting and Active Directory. I couldn't read the last one, but I think it was exploitation. So this is crucial for the challenge, and I think partially it's the reason why you need to solve this one or the printer one to unlock it. And if you skip this one, it becomes extremely difficult. But after solving this, you will see that we get a ton of hints, and we just use all the hints one by one as we progress. So it becomes more straightforward, but we still need to think a little. Why don't you do some work with fail2ban on the Raspberry Pi terminal first, then we talk Kerberoasting and Active Directory. Okay, And that's all that we have. I think in the terminal we get some references to fail to ban. There should be also a talk on fail to ban. So if you check out, but probably this is mentioned on the terminal, but if you check out the, let's just bring up the objectives and check out talks. I think, yeah, there's actually the second one, so track 2. Andy Smith is giving a talk. So if you go to this one and you really need this, if you never worked with fail to ban, okay, there's some YouTube commercials here, so I'm not gonna play the video apparently. But if you watch this talk, you will get a kickstart, and I really needed this one for this challenge because I never worked with fail to ban before, but it's a really interesting tool. So that's one thing that you can do, and then you can also just fire up the terminal, and we'll see if I need to maybe okay, so this terminal looks quite stable, and I'm going to have to do the Ctrl-Shift-R magic that I had with some previous terminals. So the whole thing is explained here. Jack is trying to break into SANS workshop. Basically, the challenge is about analyzing the logs, these HoHo no log file, and we need to find all the IP addresses that generate 10 or more fading messages within an hour. These are important parameters when we're going to create our fail to ban configuration for the jail part. So it must be added to the NODA list by running, and there's this binary with a command. The unbun is with the del command with this binary. And we can list out the current knotted list with the list command. This is useful for troubleshooting when you are trying to solve this challenge. And that's all that we get. There's also a refresh command that we need to use once we put the filter, the action, and the jail in place. So that's all that we have for this challenge to get started. And you can read up on fail to ban. I think the talk covers most that you will need. Maybe just a small part of it is missing for the challenge. And you see here the binary, the README is what we're reading right now. So if you cat it out, then you will just get the same message here. So you can always go back and quickly review the objectives. And you can start out by looking at the log file. Now I already did that, and I'm just going to do the highlights. The first initial idea is maybe just to let's just look into this first and get a feeling on what is contained. Let's do a head. Let's see if we can pick up something that looks malicious, looks suspicious, but this one says completed successfully, successful, valid heartbeat. So these are going to be useful for an ignore, but we have to come up with a way to analyze this log. It has quite a few lines. But we can search for things like failed or maybe unsuccessful, invalid. So these are all great ideas. Initially, I searched for failed. And you can see we have a type of message that starts with failed login and then an IP address and then a username here. So this is one type of message, and we can also do a word count on this. This could be useful later when we test our filters to see if they pick up all the lines. But this log file is generated every time you launch the terminal. So your numbers might differ. And there's also the malformed part that after doing some analysis, and you can use graph with a -v option, for example, to filter out successful lines. So the second type of the log entry that is tied to malicious traffic is with malformed requests. So here the host is in the first position, and I'm ignoring the field with the timestamp because fail to ban is going to handle that for us. So what we need to focus is really the part that comes after the timestamp. So this one has word count 710 message-ish. Then we saw a message with valid, so there's probably an invalid equivalent for invalid heartbeat messages. And let's do a word count on this one. So 677 lines have this, and the last one that you can find is rejected. Let's clear the terminal here. So this one is usually with unknown username, at least this is the assumption that I'm going to get back. And this is also around 700-ish. So altogether, let me just try to find all the word counts here. So we had failed, we had malformed, we had invalid, I think, yeah, and rejected, right? So these are all the entries that we need to pick up with our fail-to-ban configuration. So that's going to be the next step to develop first a filter. So I'm going to use Nano because I'm a Nano person, and no editor shaming. that's really something that I just cannot understand. Use whatever editor you like. If you like VI or Emacs, then go for that one. The point here is really to get the job done as fast and as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to create a new file here. There are several entries under the filter directory, but I need to create a new file here. So I'm going to just call this HoHo no conf, and I'm going to paste here the entirety. So it takes some time to develop this filter, obviously, and initially I had like one line for one of the malicious ones, tested it, and then add another filter line, and eventually I came up with this simple short configuration. So we're going to have the fail regular expression here, which contains the 4 different type of malicious lines with the field catching the IP part. And as you can see, we don't need to deal with the date and timestamp part. This is taken care by fail-to-ban, and these lines are all in OR condition. So either of these is matching, then it's going to be picked up as a potential expression that we need to then pass on to an action and to tie the action and the filter together with a jail configuration. And I also have the ignore regular expression here. We had one line for the heartbeat that started with a capital Y with valid, and we had also messages with the successful part. So initially when I did I had to solve these ones. So it's a very simple regular expression. And as you can see, also the lines are fairly loose. The important thing is to close them properly so no one can add something at the very end, but the beginning will start always where you have the timestamp ending here, and these are seemingly work well. You might come up with a more sophisticated one or a better one, but to solve the challenge, this one worked for me. So I'm going to save the file, and the next thing we need to do, actually we can test this before going on and defining our action and jail configuration. So fail-to-ban regex is the fail-to-ban tool to test your filters, and at the end you should have we only get the we get the counts here. I was worried that we only get the total values. We have the number of lines matching for the different expressions that we defined in the fail regex part, and I wonder, yeah, so it's not on my terminal, but these numbers look pretty familiar to me, so I think we're close. I certainly remember the 710 one, so I think we're gonna be okay here. And then we also have the ignore one, and here at the very end you see the total number of lines the lines that were ignored, the matching ones, and how many we missed. 0 missed is good. We we really would like to either categorize something as benign or something that we consider malicious and potentially would like to ban. So this works well. After filter, we need to define the action. What should happen when a filter matches? And this one is done again fairly simply, just defining what should be the ban and an unban action. So after in the jail definition, after a while you can apply an unban on an IP address, and the challenge describe command we need to execute when we have a match. So we're going to just execute this naughty list add to add an IP address to the naughty list, and the del for the unban action. That's it. It's very, very simple. And next we need to define the jail configuration, which is going to tie together the filter, the action. I'm also going to have the log path that we need to monitor, and we have 2 parameters here. This is just from the challenge definition. So the find time will use this sliding window on the log, and if within that 1 hour we have 10 entries that match one of the expressions that we defined in the filter, we are going to apply the action here. And one thing to note here is the filter and the action is not the .conf name, but just the name of the file that we created in the appropriate folders without the extension. It's kind of weird to me. I would imagine that this could work probably maybe with an absolute path, I'm not sure, but this one works, and I was just very happy to make it running and working. Took me quite some time because I wasn't familiar with Pentaban, so I think I worked at least an hour on this just to understand how it works, read some documentation, watch the talk. So if you never used it, I think it has a pretty steep learning curve initially, but once you get the idea and the concept, it becomes clear. So like I said, I never used it, but I'm really happy to see how it works, and I was happy to do the challenge because it was pretty interesting for me. All right, so at this point we have the filter, the action, the jail. Filter should work fine. I'm going to clean up the Feldman log file, and we also need to restart the Feldman service for this. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but for me this is the way the challenge worked properly. Just running the naughty list refresh command that I'm going to execute after this was a bit flaky, and it picked up IP addresses that shouldn't have, didn't pick up IP addresses that should have, applied unban in a weird way. So restarting the service will take care of that. Then I do a refresh, and we'll see if it's very very flaky this time as well. This might not work initially, and we should see after a few okay, it worked perfectly. So after a few seconds, it takes some time for Feldman to parse the log file, and as you can see, we correctly identified 14 IP addresses out of 14 bad IPs and incorrectly added 0 benign IPs to the null list. So great success. And we are going to be able to talk to our elf now to get the hints. Let's just jump next to Eve and see what we get for hints, just looking at the notes. So fantastic, thank you for the help, you are most welcome. Hey, would you like to know more about Kerberoasting and Active Directory permission abuse? I certainly would like to know more about it. It's a great talk, Chris Davis. So the talk from Chris Davis is at least, I don't know, like 60% of the solution, so we definitely need this hint. There are also plenty of resources available to run my Kerberoasting specifically. If you have any trouble finding the domain controller, the 10.network, and I couldn't read that one, but we'll circle back. Got a hash, one crack it with your word list, one rule to rule them all is a great way to grow your key space. This is an excellent rule set for Hashcat, so we are going to use that one. Where to get a word list, cool. I generate a great word list from the ElfView website. So again, each of these hints are essentially one piece to the solution. And we all need them. So far we had 5, so let's go on. Apropos of nothing, have you ever known system administrators' credentials stored in scripts? Again, very important hint. Easy way to investigate Active Directory misconfiguration with Bloodhound, but there are also native tools. Now this one, I think I actually haven't used this one because it's quite problematic to run Bloodhound. It's not infeasible, but you don't have to. You don't need to run Bloodhound. One last thing, once you grant permission to your user, it might take up 5 minutes to propagate through the domain. This one was pretty fast for me, so it shouldn't be a problem. And okay, I remembered incorrectly, we get 7 hints. For some reason I remembered 8 of them. So this one here, when not running root mf default probing relies on connecting TCP. That's also an important one when we're going to look for a domain controller. So we have 7 hints now. I'm going to review them if I'm able to find them. Should start something with Kerberoasting. Copying fast. So Active Directory interrogation. So this one talks about Bloodhound, and we also have other methods here. So this one is a PDF from SpectreOps. This one using a PowerShell to assign permission. I think I haven't used these ones really because we're going to get within the talk PowerShell snippets. Unfortunately, you have to type them in. What I did is I made a screenshot of the video and then OCR'd in the screenshot and copied it and just corrected the faults of the OCR because I'm not gonna type that much, I'm sorry. So that's really not something that you should do, and I'll try to, after recording all the videos and getting the whole video list for the Holiday Hack Challenge in a good shape, I'll probably make a GitHub gist or something like that to have those PowerShell snippets somewhere, because I'm not aware if it was uploaded to anywhere, and I want to spare you from the typing if you want to do this challenge, which is a really cool one, and I highly recommend checking this one out. The administrators often store credentials in scripts. These can be copied by an attacker for other purposes. We are going to use this step. Cool is going to be something that we use. If you don't know this tool, oops, let's not go there. No. Here, I accidentally clicked. So if you don't know this tool, it's a Python script that will scrape a website and create a word list out of the no, that's not the one. Where was I? Let's try to find this one. Active Directory interrogation was finding domain control. There it is. So it's a tool that essentially goes to a website, grabs all the words and expressions on it, and then creates a word list out of it. There's an important part here in the hint. By default, it will ignore digits in terms. So we're going to use this tool as well. Hashcat mangling rules, very important one. Not sure without it we would be able to solve the challenge easily. So you probably get the idea already. We're going to use cool to get an initial word list, and then with the mangling rules, that it's going to be fairly short as a word list. I think we're going to end up with something like 40-ish words, but then with all the different mutations on that word list, we extend it to a point where Hashcat will be able to crack something. But the title is Kerberoasting, so yeah, we're going to crack a TGT. Finding domain controllers, this is also pretty important to find these using this for map discovery. Then we have the talk itself, very important, and stored credentials. administrators overstore credentials in scripts. Kerberoasting and hashget syntax this is an important one, so this is a great little reference, and one of the this is Kerberoasting. So one of the commands that we're going to use is from the Packet toolset, and we're going to use the get user SNMPs, very similar to this one, or actually almost same command with the appropriate parameters. So that's the idea, we already saw this one with the Active Directory interrogation part. We're going to use again some commands provided in the talk, where Chris is going to give us a couple of ways how to do enumeration on Active Directory without using something like Bloodhound. So let's get into the challenge part, the actual objective part. I'm going to switch to the objective, and we need to go to the ELF portal. So at this point, I am still going to use my browser, but after this, I'm going to switch to my Cal Linux. And actually, let me just do a little adjustment real quick, because I have here the taskbar, and I'm gonna get some real estate here. We have more space here, and I need to register a user in, so I'm going to have some notes. Let's cool ourselves, pause it, and then infosec. And the email address, I think it doesn't really matter what kind of email address you are giving here, but it says real domain name must be used in email. I'm going to, I think this is just to prevent like some sort of scanner out there on the internet spamming and doing registrations. So I'm going to submit this, and it's going to take a little time until we get everything here set. So we're going to have this user here, which says it's an ELF-U domain username. So this is a domain user, and then we have also here an SSH command. I think that's all. That's all that we need here. We can switch to our Cal box, and I need to log in. Password. And initially, this will start off at a Linux terminal, a pretty tricky one, and we're going to have some difficulties here. So I'm going to take my freshly generated user, and I think this challenge is reset every day. So by the time you're watching this video, this user is probably going to be gone already. I need to type in the password, space that from my clipboard, and we end up at this terminal where we can print current courses and grades with selecting the menu item number 1 here. And then after reviewing this, we can hit enter. And the other thing that we can do is exit. So I want to get into the command prompt, so let's exit. But it throws me out. And this is the first part of the challenge. So we need to solve this. Let's get back. I should have used my history. So let's get back to this terminal and try to figure out what's going on. So this is the first challenge in this objective. You need to escape this terminal, this prompt, and I got stuck on this for a while, but you would try the usual thing. So okay, exit doesn't exit. It actually throws me out from the SSH session. So what can I do? And I have some sun coming into to the window, so it's gonna be quite funny. I try to move in a way that it's not on my face entirely. Maybe like this. I'm gonna move here on the side. So this is late afternoon, and I have some sun coming here, which is nice. So let's try a couple things. Control C. You may only type exit to leave the exam. Okay, I don't want to type in exit, so Control C, no. Can I do Control Z maybe? No. Okay. And at this point, you need to try various things, a couple things that you might hit on the keyboard, and one of the recommended way to exit from a kiosk or a terminal like this is just start bashing random things and see what happens. One thing I noticed as I was bashing the keys, if I hit escape a couple times, I see probably the current working directory's content. So that's pretty interesting. Gives us a couple ideas what's going on here. Just hush login here, which will clean up the history. And I think we also can do Control R. So we can do reverse search. So it seems like Bash is running under the hood, but this terminal is still giving us a hard time. And after bashing a couple of things, you might just go sequentially and do like Control Q, W, E, R, and so on until you reach the second row and you have A, S, which you can also do search, and then you hit D. And something interesting happens when you do that. So at this point, we have a prompt that if you ever programmed in Python might look familiar. So this looks like a Python interactive prompt. And we also get the trace back here that looks like Python related. This looks pretty much like a Python code here. So it seems like we are at a Python terminal. We need to escape this terminal here. Let's see what we can do with this. And my initial idea was that, okay, so this seems to be this terminal running here. So why don't we look inside? It's supposed to be a Python script. Pasting this one in, and that's pretty much all that we have here. Snowball was the developer. Looks like a Python free script here, and we can see what's going on here. So they are capturing SIGINT and SIGSTOP, and this prevents us from getting out. But now I am able to run Python code here. And to escape the terminal, you can do multiple things, but probably the easiest one is a very simple two-liner, or one-liner rather, but you need to import the OS library. How about this one? We're just going to do a system call for bin bash, and we escape the terminal. Now this seemed probably easy the way I did it. It's definitely not. So it takes quite some time to figure this one out. There's one talk from Mark Baggett from last year's challenges and last year's KringleCon, and that one helps a lot. I think you have a good chance to figure this one out. So once you're at the Python terminal, it only takes one application back here. I wonder if this car that just passed by was getting into the video, but the video was all in one take. Always something interesting happening. Okay, so we are at a bash shell here, and there's nothing in our directory. We can do some discovery on this jump host, so we see a few other players here with randomly generated domain usernames. So others are probably trying to solve or did solve the challenge just recently. And we can do some discovery here, like we can do ifconfig and see that apparently we have 0.2 IP address within a /16 range. That's pretty large, and you probably can hope that there are some tools installed here that we can work with. So my good news to you is that nmap is installed, and also if you do our shell, then we'll see that PowerShell is also installed on this Linux host. There's actually a shorter way, so you can also do like ping PVSH. Yeah, it's going to be the one that I'm going to use later. So these are all great news. One other thing that you can do with a quick discovery just to see what other hosts are there is ARP. And we see that aside from our .2 IP address, we also have .1, .3, .4, and .5. So altogether with our jump host, seemingly we have 5 endpoints in this network segment, at least in the /24 part. Hopefully, hopefully we don't have to do discovery on a larger like /16 segment. So what I'm going to do next is actually let me just get back here. So one thing that we can do is look at the hints. It was talking about doing discovery. Still back in the Ducky script. So Active Directory interrogation. Finding domain controllers. This one mentioned something about nmap scans and adding these ports to the discovery. I think by default you will have like 80 and 443 for discovery. I'm going to just paste this one in, and let's launch the nmap scan as is. My goal here is really just to do discovery. I already saw the other endpoints here on the network. Let's see what ports are open here, and we see that we have a .1, .2 is ours, .3, and there's also .4 and .5. Now the most interesting one is the .5 one. This seems like the domain controller, which is pretty interesting because when I first solved this challenge, it was the .4, so they randomize a bit the whole thing, but it's okay. We should be able to figure this one out. Now we have the 0.1 here with, oops, no, this is what I wanted to do. We have the 0.1 here, and this one has the 2222 port open, so this is probably another jump host maybe, or it could be the firewall itself, and we can run, as we did with previous cases, we can run curl against it just to see what's there. And it is doing a redirection, so instead we can do I won't be able to type. Let's copy paste. Probably a better approach. And after following the redirect here, we see that this page is saying student registration, new domain, student registration portal. So this looks like the actual registration portal that we use to register in, because it has, let's go back here. It has all the text from the page. And at this point, when I was poking around, I discovered this one here, which is pretty neat that I bumped into this. It's a comment section that we can actually take a closer look here as well. Now what I'm about to do might be illegal in certain US states, so just be careful. So if you view source, this sticks out even more. So there's this hidden little piece that will help us. And now looking at these karaoke team names or nicknames, the hint that we got for cool is a really important one here. So after poking around and seeing these, there's another web server with the same website. So if you go back here, I'm going to do that one, but if you go back to the nmap results, you will see that there's also on our server, we have port 80 open. It's the same website, I think, so we changed this one I said I will not do it, but let's check it out. So same site again. We have the same content here. So at this point, I thought, okay, this could be pretty useful. So let me just open up another terminal, and I decided to generate my list with cool. There's a couple of things that I'm going to add here, and I actually forgot what all the options mean, so I need to cheat a little bit. So I came up with this command, which is doing verbose. Just clean this one up a bit. So doing verbose with a -v, then -a to have metadata included. I also have here D3, that's for the depth. I do remember that one. And M5 was that the minimum word length. The default is 3. I decided to go with a bit longer one. This is just an arbitrary choice. And then the important one is the -- with numbers, because the hint says right over here for cool is that but it will ignore digits in terms by default. And I thought, okay, this is probably important. That's why they included here. I also do the -- email, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to run this, and missing your argument. Yes, I do. So this is not the entirety of the command. Let me just paste it in properly. I just missed the last part here. All right. Now we have a list. And I'm going to use this list later. Let's just take a look at how long it is. And we have 43 words in the list. You can also take a quick look at this because this doesn't seem to be that long. But I have a bunch of words here that we're going to use when we use hashcat to do the Kerberoasting attack, which is an offline cracking attack. Alright, so at this point we identified our potential word list. We also figured out a couple of hosts. Would be nice to know more about those hosts. So at this point I decided to run a more detailed mmap scan with a -a. This will take some time, so I'll use this to explain the next step. So after running this, and we already saw in the mmap results for the initial mmap scan, there are a couple systems with the SMB port open. So the next thing that I'm going to do is whenever I saw one of the hosts having an open SMB port, I'm going to see what shares are available there. But I probably should have taken a good note of the potential systems there. So we had this one had nothing. So 3, 4, and 5. Okay, this is this is very straightforward. So I'm going to take a look at the third, the fourth, and the fifth IP address there using SMB client. So this is a command that we can use. Just slide back. I think we're after sunset now, so we can take a look at it. And if we look at the SMBOS discovery results, we see the domain name, the FQDN as well. So some of the script-based results are in. This is the last one, so this is the .5, which is the seemingly something that runs at least Active Directory related services, because it has Kerberos in there. But it seems to be using Samba. So the mmap is not sure what to make out of all of these. We also have here another endpoint.4 with SMB open. So this is great. The open ports will not allow us to do anything else really, so we can get started and do the discovery with our user that is supposed to be in the domain itself. But first, I would just like to see what shares are available on the different endpoints. So this one has a share called LU files. Looks promising. .4 doesn't have anything interesting there, and then .5 has the usual netlogon and sysvol shares. This is required for Active Directory. Then you have the LFU SCV share and the research department one. I think the research department one is what we're after because we need to have the blueprints or something. So there's a file that we need to grab, and research document. So we're probably after a file that is located on this file share. If we try now to authenticate, just need to craft properly the requests here. So let me do that one real quick. So we had .3, which has the LFU files, and then .5 had the shares for Active Directory. I'm going to just create these commands, and I can try. Oh, and I also need to modify my username here. So this will require me to do a few editing steps on the fly because I have a new random username generated, and what we're going to do is try to connect to this share using our domain user and see if we have the rights to do that. Paste the password. So this one says access denied. Access denied as well. And for the research one, it is, well, if you can get in there, this challenge will be fairly short. So obviously this will also give us access denied. Kind of stuck here, but we do have a domain user, and this is about Kerberoasting. So I was thinking, maybe some of the in-packet tools are in there, and it is. So what we need to do next is to again use one of the hints. Let's try to get it here. So I mentioned that we're going to use this command adapted to the environment, and let me just do the modifications needed. So I'm going to need the domain name, the domain user, the password, and then the output file that I want to have. I'm going to paste this one. Let me just clear this one up. So this get user SPNs with the credentials will go and create the Active Directory, so authenticate to it, and try to enumerate the users that have the service principal name attribute set. I'm not going to go into details of Kerberoasting here, especially because this video is already approaching 1 hour. So just while I'm going to execute this real quick, in a nutshell, the idea with Kerberoasting is that we're looking for service accounts that have a service principal name attribute set, and we have one here for the LFU SCV. This is quite common with service accounts. What we can do is we can attack the Kerberoast authentication procedure, or protocol rather, and in the name of the service account, we can ask for a ticket granting ticket, which we will then be able to use to have a hash that we'll be able to then crack offline with a sufficiently good password list and probably some mangling rules. On a high level, that's the idea. So we're going to exploit the Kerberoast authentication procedure, which will grant us a ticket, a Kerberoast ticket that we can then use for offline cracking. And this is all probably way better explained in some of the resources. You can check the original sort of creator of this attack, Tim Medine's talk. And the important thing, and I mentioned ticket, granting tickets. So yes, we're going to be able to spoof that one. What we're cracking is the response that comes back, which is encrypted, but we can launch an offline cracking attack. So we have here the ticket granting service ticket, and you see here the hash itself. And what we're going to do is take this. I already have this in a, not this one, but another one in a separate file prepared with hashcat. Let me just see where my hashcat is. And I also took the file here and for the word list. And I have here hashcat on my laptop because I don't want to run it in the VM. What I need to do here is to run this command here. So this is on Windows because I want to run it natively, but hashcat is ported on Windows as well. So I'm going to run hashcat with the appropriate hash type. I have some parameters here to do a rule-based tracking and disable all the other profiles because I just want to use this rule set that was provided with the challenge, and I have an extra space here which is really annoying for me, but it's fine. Should work. And then we have the file here that we're going to use for the cracking and the word list. So issuing this command, you're gonna see some error messages here for the drivers and such, but that's okay. And hashcat is going in, starts cracking the Kerberoast ticket. And it will take probably a couple seconds to have it cracked. Maybe longer, I can't remember. But after, there it is. So after a couple seconds, hashcat manages to crack this one, and it's fairly simple password. So you see here the entirety of the encrypted hash or the encrypted part that we crack here, and then the clear text part, which is no 2021 exclamation mark. So that's the password for the LFU_SVC user. Right. This is great because we saw a file share earlier, and this not the research one, but there's the LFU_SVC_SHR or share. This user probably has the rights for that share. Let's jump here, but I'm going to first try the other ones just to make sure that we're not missing anything. Let's try the, and I think this was on .3. Like I said, I need to do some adjustments on the IP addresses. Was it .3? I think it was .3, and this was Snow 2021 exclamation mark. So this one says access denied. No good. Then we have the research, which is a .5, and then also a .5 for the service one, and so 2021 exclamation mark, so access denied. And you need to do this. I'm just demonstrating some of the branches, the paths that you need to track down while you're performing this kind of assessment or penetration test, because you never know what rights you have. Especially in a large environment, it's very common that users accumulate privileges and rights over time, and tools like Bloodhound can nicely visualize the the whole environment and make your life very easy as either an attacker or defender. I always recommend defenders running Bloodhound to see what's in their environment, so they know the environment and they can do some mitigation on and kind of squash potential attack paths or try to better protect their service account, service users. And the last share that we're going to try is Snow 2021 is the LFU service one, and this gives us an SMB prompt. Now if you never use SMB client, I don't really use it often, so I had to look up certain commands. You can also use the help, and if you list out the contents of this share, you will see that there are a ton of PowerShell scripts here. So what we can do at this point, and this is what I did, just scroll to the bottom of this. So I'm going to exit now, and I've created a separate directory, and I used I need to do some adjustment here on the IP address. This is .5. And I totally underestimated the length of this video. We're probably going to end up somewhere like an hour and 30 minutes for this one. So the important part here is to turn prompt off, because if you want to just issue a get command for each and every file, this will take forever. There's the mget command, which allows you to use a wildcard, so like this, but it will prompt you, do you want to download this file? Do you want to download this file? So you need to turn this one off. And I also have recurse on, but I haven't seen any directories here. It's just a bunch of files. The rest should be good. It's no 2021 exclamation mark. We download all the files here. Now we have it on our on a jump host, and we can search in there. Now one of the hints for this challenge was I think we don't need these anymore. One of the hints was to look for store credentials. I think this is one. Look for credentials in scripts. There are multiple ways to approach this, but now we have a bunch of files that seem to be related to administration. So if you take a look at the names here, we have here encryption, a lab config, get trace providers, and so on. And what I decided to do is first I searched for password or secret or something like that, and then I had the idea to check for the name of the domain, and you will see one single file that has a credential, potentially a credential for the remote_elf user. So looked interesting. First I wanted to know just how big this PowerShell script is. Oh, I'm missing a space here. And it's only 4 lines. So I said, all right, 4 lines, I can manage. Show me those 4 lines. And indeed, we have credentials stored in here. Now, in a secret string format, this is something that we can reverse and have the clear text password actually. But just to verify if these actually work, so what you can see here is the secret string. So the secret string here being converted into a secure string using this key, and then these are the credentials that we use to authenticate to this IP address, whatever that is, and it's a domain controller, I'm telling you. And we execute in a script block with the invoke command the get process on this endpoint. So looks pretty good. Let's run these using PowerShell. And I was thinking, yeah, this is probably not this easy, but I immediately tried to okay, I'm going to execute these lines here. And I was pretty confident that this is not the actual path. And I was very surprised when I issued the invoke command. and I got back the process listing. So we can execute commands on this 10 dot, what is this? 10.128 1.53. So I got very excited and curious about this. And let me just look at my notes. I think the next couple of things that I issued as commands were just some basic reconnaissance and situational awareness. So the host name here is DC01. Normally I should do a bit more enumeration here, making sure that this is indeed a domain controller. But I just went with it like it's called DC01. It's probably going to be the domain controller. Who am I? Okay, no surprise, we authenticated with these credentials, and okay, indeed, this is the IP address. So I just wanted to see, okay, can I do arbitrary commands here? I did a couple other things here just very quickly. So looking at the arc table, and then looking at the domain information with the get 80 domain command. So we have here info on the domain controller. So this kind of verifies that, okay, indeed this is a domain controller here, and we have pretty important information like domain Active Directory mode, Active Directory domain mode, and a couple other things. And this is the point where you really need to look at the talk and see how Chris demonstrates privilege escalation. I think in the talk he escalates privileges up to domain administrator. So a couple of things that you can try is, for example, look at rights on objects like the domain admin group, and this this PowerShell snippet is in the talk, so you can also check it out. It's just going to query the Active Directory and see who has what kind of access on the domain admin group in the Active Directory. I think this should work. Let's try it out. And looking at the output, we're going to have a sad trombone sound because seemingly nothing interesting is in there. So generic read, generic hold, authenticated user system, built-in administrators, domain admins, enterprise admins. So these are the default groups there that have the necessary privileges on the domain admin groups, but nothing like in the talk. So no one has like write DACL rights on this group. And I had to take a step back, so I did some enumeration here. Let me see if I want to do any of these. But I had to take a step back and see what groups the user that I have is in. So we are going to look at the group membership for remote elf. And yeah, not surprisingly, we have remote management users, remote domain users. I think these are default groups, so not super interesting. If you would like to see the credentials for the user that we're looking at, because I thought maybe this would be useful, you can do this with this PowerShell commandlet. So the get network credentials will provide you, and I already have the credentials stored in this variable. We'll give you the plain text password for this user. Could be useful. I ended up not using this. And if you are tired of doing the invoke commands, you can also do an interactive session. So just a couple of things that you can use to poke around, and you can see that, well, there's absolutely nothing here really. You can log into this remote system with the remote elf user because it's in the appropriate groups, but you will not be able to do much with this. Now, other things that you can do for Active Directory enumeration, there's another PowerShell snippet that was mentioned in the, actually I'm not going to do this one probably, oops, so do Control U on this one, that allows you to do the same kind of enumeration, but instead of the Active Directory group of the domain admins, I keep popping up here, instead of that, let's try to do some additional enumeration. So I was curious to see what groups are available in the Active Directory, and most of them are fairly normal and nothing interesting there to see, the built-in ones really, except for the ones in the bottom, which are, I'm just scrolling in the meantime in my notes. We have the research department here that can be potentially interesting. Then you can also check for the user list. And these are, because they have a fixed length, and I can also see somewhere my user, also the last one here, actually in the list. And we also see here a test user, plus a bunch of users that probably belong to the Active Directory environment. And these are all the users generated by people playing the Holiday Hack Challenge. And on top we have our service user, the remote elk. There's also LQ admin, could be interesting. And then these are just probably users there, but these accounts here on top have the potential of being something interesting. I'd also say the test user might be something interesting. So I'm here I'm just looking for things that might stick out, might be interesting for later exploration. And at this point I started looking for, okay, well, what credentials do I have, what I'm able to access with these credentials. I had to figure out a way to escalate privileges, or at least get access to another interesting group. And like I said, I had to take a step back here. So this is for the service user, looking at the admin user, curiosity, what it returns. And yeah, the remote elf we already saw, so nothing really was obvious here. And then I decided, okay, let's take a look at this research department one. And at that point I realized that probably the end goal for this challenge is not to get domain admin, because then the players would get domain admin and they have the potential just to bring down the challenge and ruin everyone's day. But the end goal is not even to get domain admin, and that's an important mindset switch that when you do penetration testing you definitely have to keep in mind, because often the end goal of a pen test, an internal pen test, is to get domain admin, which is not a great goal, because domain admin is just one means to achieve a goal, but very often attackers will get this goal to make their lives easier. But if they can get to their goal, and here the end goal is to get that special secret file with the blueprints, then that path is also completely fine. And we saw that research share at the beginning, before we started off trying to explore the Active Directory. So there's a group called Research Department. Maybe members of that group can access that share. And if you list out here the members, well, telltale signs are here, because you see that all the users that you saw earlier for other players are here, except yours. So this was something that stood out for me, and I decided, all right, I need to see what rights do we have on this Active Directory group. I'm going to use the other snippet provided in the talk, paste, and see what we have here. And things like Bloodhound with the Sharp Hound Collector would probably make this one a little bit easier, but I find these few little snippets very, very useful. So I'm definitely going to use these later because they're easier to make them blend in. They're probably not as loud as the collector for Bloodhound, and they also have the potential to evade the antivirus on a system. So these are great for internal pen tests. All right, generic read, generic all for the built-in ones, domain admins. Okay, this one looks very, very interesting. Remote Elf, we do have the credentials for that. And it has a very, very interesting right, the right decal right, which allows me to modify the access rules on this group, meaning that I can add another user with something like generic all to the group's privileges, access control list, and then that user can modify the group, add itself even to the group. So that's going to be our next step. And our hope is that once my user is added to this group, I will be able to access that share. So that's going to be our end goal. Now we have a good, well-defined end goal. We can start working on this. And the next step here is going to be pretty tricky. I need to again do some preparation. So this is one of the PowerShell code snippets I mentioned, and the part that I need to change is the username, I believe. Aside from that, we should be good. Now, typing this one in was really, really painful. I'm not going to go into the entirety of this snippet, but the point here is really just to grant generic all permissions for my user here. After that, my next step is to verify that indeed now I have the appropriate rights. Go back again, and if all went well, I should see at the very bottom of the output of these commands, my user added just verify this with generic all. Right, just go on top of this to see what I have. So generic all operators, there's the remote elf. Where is mine? I think this is mine. Let me just check if this is indeed my username. Yeah, looks good. So G, BB, and FAG is the beginning. So now I have generic rights, generic all rights on this group. This doesn't mean I'm a group member. This is just an ACL right, but I'm not member of this group. I need to add myself to this group. Verify this. You can query this. You can see that other players, users are already in this group. Mine is not yet there. And to do this, again, you need to use some PowerShell trickery, which requires me again to modify the username and also the password in this case to add myself to the group. This is all, so I didn't came up with these. These are all PowerShell snippets in the talk itself, provided by Chris, who created this really, really awesome challenge. Just verifying if I have everything correctly here. I think it's good. Let's paste this. And at the end, this should grant me group membership in the research and development department. And yes, indeed, we have our user here. We're almost there. So at this point, we managed to get ourselves into this group. We need to see if we can connect to the research and development department's file share. I'm going to enter this. I'm going to first I need to SSH in and do the escape again, because I'm in my Kali box. So I first need to this clipboard. I need to get into the jump box, do the escape. So what was it? Control D, right? And then I don't have the just going to make sure that I'm copy pasting the right escape here. The bash. Even though it's quite simple, I don't want to make any typos at this point because we're getting fairly long with this video. Alright, so at this point we are logged in, and normally we should have the rights to the share, to access the share. I'm going to put the password on my clipboard, and oops, failed. So this is probably the part that, oh wait, do I have the, this is not the, is it the dominant controller one? Let's just verify if no, I didn't. I forgot to modify the IP address. This is good because it might take some time to let everything propagate on the network. Okay, this is better. And there's one single file there. What are the odds, right? What are the odds? So there's the PDF file. I'm going to copy this one over to the, oops, it's the password. Not this one. I wonder if the tab completion works. Ah, fantastic. So this is copied over. Let me open up another terminal here. A lot of moving parts. Oh, I'm being stupid. So I'm going to exit. And I do have here the PDF file. Now the problem is, how am I going to read this? And there are multiple ways to do the file transfer to my actual Kali box, which is right here. So let's see a couple of things that we can do. I decided to go the quick and dirty route again. I'm going to take this file and convert it into base64 and just copy paste this whole thing. I'm getting rid of the line breaks because by default base64 is going to have line breaks for the whole blob. I just want to have one big base64 blob here, and then I have to take this one and just add a couple lines here, so it's going to be easier for me to paste this entirely on the and I need to then copy it like this. This is not elegant, this is very, very stupid, but is it stupid if it works? Oh, a little bit too much. Okay, going to copy selection. Okay, I'm going to rename this one later, so just let's go test B64 or something like that. Paste this in, save it. Hopefully everything went well. Let me just do proper naming here. I'm going to rename test B64 to this. And then what I can do is I can base64 decode this and pipe it into a PDF file. And if I did everything correctly, you can already see the thumbnail here. Should be able to open up the PDF document. Wow, this was a long journey, wasn't it? So almost 1.5 hours, including the terminal challenge, which you probably now realize that you absolutely need to solve this objective. And we can read the entirety of this document. At this point, you probably totally forgot what was the end objectives. Let me just jump back here and look at the objective. So our task here is to find the first ingredient. Santa urges each elf and reindeer to consider. Going back here, that would be this first item on the list. Copy this again to avoid any typos, and we have the challenge solved. So this is a pretty hard challenge. That's the reason why the difficulty level is 5 Christmas trees. Requires piecing together a lot of different steps, and I did not get sidetracked that much. I didn't chase down rabbit holes. And even like this, it took me hours to go through this. Basically with every step, I had to stop, look at the hints, understand what they mean, and make sure that I get the right results at each step. The only place where I had to spend some extra time and I was poking around when I had to do enumeration and realizing which Active Directory group I need to put my user in order to access the share that contained the Engold, that PDF file. Overall, I think this was absolutely mind-blowing, and the upcoming challenges and the objectives will be a bit easier, so probably this is a challenge that you would leave probably the very last. This was the third before the last challenge I solved, and like I said, it took a significant amount of time, but it's an absolutely amazing challenge with a lot of realistic parts in it. I saw some chatter on the Discord server about this, and people were really saying that they enjoyed this one the most. And they compared it to other lab environments where you need to do Active Directory exploitation. I also agree, this is very, very realistic. I also was very happy to learn about fail to ban in the terminal challenge. So altogether, this was again one of my favorite, if not the favorite challenge of the 2021 Holiday Hack Challenge. Next challenge, or next objective rather, is going to be objective 9 with Splunk. It's going to be much easier, and I have a little fun part in there where I wouldn't say outsmarted the game, but I took a shortcut. So hope to see you there in the other video, and if you watch this till the very end, you're a real trooper. Thank you for sticking around and watching the entirety of the video. You probably jumped around to some of the steps, but that's okay. It was for the long one. Next one hopefully will be a bit shorter. So see you there.